All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, everybody. I'm sitting here currently watching my cat attack the snowflakes out the window. And I've only been up for like a half an hour, so I didn't know that it was even snowing outside. But he is currently attacking the snowflakes through the window. It's mildly entertaining to watch. Just kind of hold out for a second here, wait for people to get on, get involved. Hello, Brian. Hi, Tegan. Um, so one of the things that I've been talking about is my routine. Hey, Chels. My routine has been all over the place, and yet again last night I stayed up all night, and I woke up at 11:30, and I didn't want to get out of bed at all. So I was sitting here waiting to get on, reading out of my big book, doing what my sponsor tells me to do. Just kind of going through the motions. I've been going through the motions. I met with a sponsee yesterday, and it was amazing. We did a lot of work together, but the motivation isn't there. The passion isn't there, right? And, it's because I'm stagnant and I'm sitting here and I don't know what to do with myself. I'm used to being on the run all day long. Over the last 6 months, my life has been sun up to sundown, working with other people and being with my supports and seeing my family, all day long, every day. And now I don't even know how many days it's been that I've been home doing nothing. And, it's really a struggle. And to find that passion and that motivation is really hard for me today. And so as anybody who's watched my video and anybody who hasn't, this is for you guys know what this is, but some of you may not. Hi, Kira. This is an intention card box. So every morning I kind of shuffle them around and pray about it and, meditate on it for a few minutes and put things that are bothering me to the forefront of my mind. And then I pick a card. And today, I did it before I got on here and I was just shuffling through it. And all I could keep thinking about was the fact that I just feel not productive and unmotivated. And I feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't go as far as saying dead inside, but there's just nothing there. There's no fire there, and the word that came up was passion, and the first thought that went through my mind was passion. What am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with that in this situation? Because that's how my brain works. My brain works to see all of the problems and all of, the negative. But I'm working on training it to see, a different side of things. And, after I kind of thought about it for a few minutes, this is exactly what I've been trying to do, is find that passion, in this new world that we're living in today, this virtual world, social distancing. I'm trying to find a passion in doing things that I normally would do, but in a completely different manner, so I talked to my sponsor yesterday and she gave me a bunch of assignments and I was aggravated, I was, I was so aggravated with it. I was like, what? I don't want to. I don't want to reach out to people. I don't want to read the book. I don't want to build a routine. I don't want to do any of that stuff, but I've been taught through the program and through the last 16 months to just keep putting the next foot forward, and keep going. So I did that. And yesterday was a lot different than it has been in a while. I felt productive. I felt, I don't know, by the end of the night, I felt like I had done something right that day. And all I did was work with my sponsee. I went for a walk and, I picked up my phone and I went to my home group too. But, outside of that, I really didn't do anything different. I still was home for the most part. I still was sitting, with myself and my cat, and just through those little things, I started to find that again, that passion a little bit, I started to find something to keep me going. So I think this is like a learning process for all of us, is how to keep that fire alive. And like Yana talks about, like how to keep my why. Why do I get up in the morning? Why do I do the things I do? How to keep that alive and thriving, because I know for me in this situation, I can extinguish that fire pretty quick. I can get caught into the isolation piece and not pick up my phone, not get on here. I can find excuses as to why I'm not reaching out to people. And, like inventories, for example, like I do nightly inventories and I haven't done them in a week. I did one last night. But when my sponsor asked me why, my excuse was, what's the point? I'm not doing anything. What am I going to write about at night? And, she had a good point. She's like, you're still making interactions regardless of where it is. You could still be selfish. You could still be self-centered. You could still be resentful. Just because you're not seeing people in person doesn't mean that you're not a person and living throughout the day. And it took me having that conversation and being told that stuff to actually register it and think about it. So I thought that was pretty interesting that I pulled this up today, considering the situation that I'm going through at the moment. A lot of times over the past week, the things that have come to the forefront of my mind are, codependency and finances and stuff like that. And today, like really all that came to my mind was like, I just don't want to keep being in this cycle of feeling the way I'm feeling, I have no choice but to be home. That's, out of my control, but I do have a choice in what I do with being home. I have a choice in how I feel about those things. I have a choice in the effort I put into the interactions that I have on a daily basis. I have a choice in how I treat people and how I react to things. So I think it was amazing for me to pull that out today and, just have that slight reminder that like, you do this for a reason. You are still helping people and you are still living that life of purpose that you thrive on. As for me, I need that stuff. I need it, to stay sober and to stay in a positive mind frame that keeps me away from my addiction. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to for me is like, my addiction. I mean, and it's not just about alcohol and drugs. It's about the disease for me. There's a lot of things that go into my alcoholism. It's not just me drinking. It's me, my behaviors and my feelings and all of the stuff that we deal with, the reasons why I drank when I was 11 years old and continue to throughout my life. So that's my little rant on where I've been over the past couple days and, what it's been looking like for me. I try to give you guys an idea of what I'm going through at the moment, so hopefully some of you can relate, maybe learn something from it. Maybe I can learn something from you and your comments and your input on this. But let's get started on the readings. I haven't read them today. It's another one of those days that, like I said, I woke up not too long ago, took a minute to make me like somewhat presentable and not look dead to the world. So in God's care, this is one of them that I read that I've talked about before that one of my best friends bought for me last year, and I've read it every day since. It's about spirituality in recovery. So it's not necessarily a 12-step program, but it's incorporating both of those things. And I do, for anybody who hasn't listened to me before, I do believe in God. I'm very, very, very spiritual, but I am not religious. So I'll just leave it with that. March 23rd. Silence is argument carried on by other means. And that's a quote from Ernesto Che Guevara. It's interesting. As a wartime weapon in certain situations, silence can be employed to throw the enemy off balance. Silence has its uses too in domestic warfare. Verbal battles can be waged by sulking and silent scorn. Although the tactic may be effective, it does the user no credit. Silence is better used before we get into the argument. As Bill W. says, nothing pays off like restraint of tongue and pen. Silence has another function in relation to our Creator. In the din of day-to-day living, we may find it hard to hear the voice of our inner guide, and our work may keep us from staying attuned. That's why it's important for us to schedule snatches of time during the day to be still and remember God. Today I'll use silence constructively, to be still and listen to my inner guide. One of the things that pops into my head when I read that is yesterday, like I said, when I was talking to my sponsor and finally telling her where I was really at, because I hadn't talked to her in I don't know how long. Well, she asked me, where my daily meditation was at, and I told her the truth. Like, I haven't been reading these when I first wake up. I've been waiting because I get on these videos to read them, and granted, I'm still reading them and I'm processing them, but it's not the same as me getting up in the morning and sitting silently with my idea of God and going through these, and feeling them and processing them and what does it pull out for me and what does that mean for my life today. I'm very quick to talk to God, very quick. I need this, and I hope that you can help me in this area of my life, but it is really hard for me to sit in silence. My brain is going 900 miles an hour at all times. I'm very analytical. I want to know all the answers to everything. I want to know everything about you before you know it about me. I want to know how everything works, why it works. That's how my brain works. So it's really hard for me to do yoga, meditation, that stuff. So for the last couple of months, like I've really been working on like that time in the morning when I'm sitting with these to have my house completely silent, to not turn on music, because that's one of my go-tos. I will turn on music and zone out everything. And actually listen to what is being put on my soul and in my heart. It's really hard for me to do. I still struggle with it, and over the past week that I've been home, I haven't been doing it. I've been waiting until 12 o'clock until I get on here. And I do like the spontaneity of me reading these on this video live with you guys, so we can share that experience together. But at the same time, I'm robbing myself of that time, that time with my God, and to feel those things. I'm talking and I'm leading the show at this point. So I think for me, I might still wait and do this on here with you guys to have that experience, but I probably should do it after the fact, and sit with my God and feel that stuff and listen to him. Because, without it, like I'm a mess. And I've said it before on my videos. It's like, I take control and I'll run that train right into the fiery pits of hell. And, that's where my control leads me, is to just destruction, bad behavior, self-sabotage, like all of that stuff. I will lead it there, Kira, I go silent a lot because I'd rather be still and listen. I mean, I give you credit because I can't, not that I can't, I have a hard time doing it, which deters me from doing it. It's not necessarily that I can't. I could if I put in the effort, but I have a hard time doing it. And even when I do this on my own, like I struggle with it. I might sit with it for a couple minutes and then I flip to the next reading and go on, but it's practice and it's doing these things over and over and over again to where I'll build that spiritual connection, and I've learned that over the last year and a half, is that, it takes practice and it takes time to learn how to do that stuff and be with God and, learn about myself in the long run of all of it. One of my biggest themes for this quarantine is learning about myself. And I can't do that. I've found in my experience that I can't do that without the help of something outside of me. I definitely get caught up in my own shit, and I get caught up in my own mind, and I will run with it. I will. And I will self-destruct very quickly. And like I've said before, that doesn't always mean using. That means people. That means buying things. That means being an a-hole. I very much so have the tendency to just shut down, be a jerk, and go on about my life. I'm going to leave you over there while I go over here and do this and that, and my eyebrow goes up, my attitude gets through the roof, and that's my addiction. That's my addiction. It's taken me a long time to realize that piece of it, that my addiction isn't just when I get drunk or when I get high. My addiction is when I start acting on those behaviors, so I think, people tell me all the time that God or praying is a two-way conversation. The prayer is talking to God, the meditation is listening to God. And I think that piece, without that piece of listening to God, we're still running the show. That's my personal experience. Kira, it takes practice, and at least you acknowledge it. That's part of it. I agree with that. Step one in anything is admitting that we have these defaults or survival skills or whatever, however you want to phrase it, these things that we do that make us, act on these behaviors, and for me, it's survival skills. That's all I've ever known. Between my upbringing in prison, that's all I've ever known, is to shut down, treat you like crap, and keep you as far away as possible so you can't hurt me. In the past, I'd say probably 5 or 6 months, I've learned to let those walls down. And it's hard sometimes. I revert to old behaviors. I get caught up in shutting everybody out, but at the end of the day, like, it's progress, and I'm learning as I go, and every time it's a little bit different than it was the last time. That's one of the things that my sponsor has taught me, is like, as long as it's a little bit different the next time, like, we're doing something. Let's check on these real quick. Mo, hi Mo, I miss you. My mind is constantly buzzing with things to do. Kevin has said it must be exhausting being in your brain. I could stand to slow down. Meditation with Brian is helping. Absolutely. That's one. Sorry about my sinuses going all over the place, guys. But one of the things that I've learned is, like, I'm a go human being. And for me, what that is me distracting from everything else. Even in times that I'm not working or not working with a person in outreach or volunteer work, I will distract with almost anything. I'll find laundry to do. I will, I'll find things that need to be cleaned. I'll find people that need help, whatever the case might be. But, there's a certain level there. There's a certain level that I'm doing it to help me. And all of a sudden I cross this imaginary line in the sand that I'm doing it to distract from anything that I have to deal with. It's a very fine line for me, and I need to make sure that I'm not crossing that line, where I'm distracting. And I do it all the time, so for me, it's like a learning process of everything I'm going through to learn when I'm distracting and when I'm not. Is it okay for me to distract right now? Because there are times that it's okay to just disconnect. I'll play Xbox, or I'll play with my cat, or I will talk to humans and just distract, because I need that break. The area that we work in is very heavy. It's very personally heavy, because we all invested our hearts and our souls into this. And Yana talked about it last night, like, she became her job, and we can very quickly do that. So there are times that distracting is good, but there's other times that it's just, we need to step up and man up and face those things that we're dealing with in order to grow and to change. I've talked about it before. The only time that I change or make any progress in life is when I face all of that, sit in the shit, sit in the uncomfortability, and get through it, Chelsea, we practice mindfulness and meditation. It isn't always about questioning our brains. Our brain is meant to think. That is its main function. So the fact that even when we sit still and quiet, it's still noisy and thinking. At least we know our brain works. We can't shut our brains off. So the real meaning of meditation is creating a practice to where we notice when our brains are thinking, and anything that is not in the moment, we acknowledge it and then gently let those thoughts flow down the river away from us. We shift our focus back to the moment, our breath, good practice for those of us with overactive brains. There's, somebody else talks about it. It's like, it may have been my sponsor, that talk about, like, these thoughts that come in and we picture them as bubbles, And when those thoughts come in, when I'm trying to be silent about my money or my relationship or whatever's going on at that time, those thoughts come in and I just kind of gently let them go. Chelsea has a very good point in that, is like, it's not necessarily about sitting and just being silent. It's about acknowledging the things that are coming into our minds and just letting them go. And then we bring ourselves back to those things that we can focus on, our breath, our silence, whatever's going on in that moment. And that's one of the hardest things for me, is like letting them go, because for me, like I'll ruminate really quick, and I'm starting to learn to let that stuff go, but it takes some time and it takes practice. Without practice, like, we never get better at things. So I'm talking a whole lot. We have like 9 minutes left, so I'm going to move on to the next one here. And this book is Jesus Calling. I've talked about it a few times. I've had it for about the same time. I had one of these in prison, and I brought it home with me. This particular one, Yana got for me for my birthday. And I switched them out for reasons that are irrelevant. But this one is Sarah Young talking, and she meditates every day. Well, at the time, I don't know how old this book is. She meditated every day for 365 days and wrote whatever came to mind for that specific day. I like stuff like this, just like my next book that's coming up, like things that are raw and real, unedited. Like, this is what I was thinking in that moment. And it's very gaudy. I am a Jesus person, so replace that word with whatever it is for you. A lot of people, it's nature and people that have passed on, their animals. I've heard all types of things that what their higher power is. Replace it with higher power. Replace it with whatever word you use for something that is outside of yourself and greater than you. Okay? All right, so March 23rd. I am a God of both intricate detail and overflowing abundance. When you entrust the details of your life to me, you are surprised by how thoroughly I answer your petitions. I take pleasure in hearing your prayers, so feel free to bring me all your requests. The more you pray, the more answers you can receive. Best of all, your faith is strengthened as you see how precisely I respond to your specific prayers. Because I am infinite in all my ways, you need not fear that I will run out of resources. Abundance is at the very heart of who I am. Come to me in joyful expectation of receiving all you need, and sometimes much more. I delight in showering blessings on my beloved children. Come to me with open hands and heart, ready to receive all I have for you. We touched on this a little bit yesterday, and it was something to the effect of like, I know what I want and I need in that moment, or what I think I want and I need in that moment. But when I let go and I let God, typical AA slogans, when I let go and I let God, I typically get my needs met, and so much more than I ever thought was possible. There's a saying in Alcoholics Anonymous that, like, if I had been given the life I thought I deserved or needed when I first walked in these rooms, I would have sold myself short. And that's very true for me. I think I need and I want specific things, but when I let go and I pray about it and I let God handle it, I get my basic needs met, and then my life takes this crazy turn in this other direction that I never saw coming. One example I can use is being employed at ROCovery Fitness. That was not in my plan at all. I knew that I was leaving the job I was in because that was where I went back to drinking, and I did all the things, a year ago, 12 months, 11 months ago. And I knew I was leaving that job, but I picked up a couple restaurant jobs and I was working them, and I had more free time in my schedule. So I started going to ROCovery, and I was just praying about the fact that I needed some sort of change in my life. Like, this wasn't working for me. I wasn't happy. I wasn't content. I didn't feel like I had a purpose. I mean, I was making food all day, and some people that's their purpose. For me, it's not, and out of the blue, off a sweaty treadmill with no shoes on, I got offered an interview at ROCovery, you know, and that was God like answering those prayers. And I would have never saw that coming. If you know, I came home from prison a year ago, well, 16 months ago now. And anybody who's been in my life this time knows that, like, I was in the hood when I first came home. Yana took me into her home, and helped me for a very long time. I had no sense of direction. I ended up relapsing. I you know, was in a very unhealthy relationship. And, you know, I was a volunteer for ROCovery for 6-7 months, and I never would have thought that I would have ended up working there. I would have never asked for it because I didn't think I was good enough. I would have never even tried. I would have kept volunteering and doing what I was doing and going on about my life, you know, because I thought that I wasn't good enough to be an employee at this place that saved my life and has saved the lives of so many people in this world, you know, and in this community. You know, I that was my God working through Yana and the board and everybody else who came in. Freaking shoes on. I was sweating to death. And I just was honest. I didn't know. It was impromptu. I had maybe 10 minutes in between being on the treadmill to going into this board and talking to these people. Like, I was honest, you know. I've relapsed recently. I don't know what the hell I can accomplish. I would do my best, you know. Like, when I was a volunteer there, I did the job I'm doing now to an extent. So sure, I can offer some experience. But I mean, 2 weeks passed. I didn't think I was getting that job. Who would hire me, you know? And that's like one of my biggest blatantly obvious God moments, was me getting that job and being able to actually be worth something, you know. It's taken me a long time to realize that I do have these attributes and I do have this uniqueness about me that works in certain areas, you know. And it took God working in other people for me to see that for myself. You know, I would have never even thought about it. But my supports saw that in me. You know, they saw that in me when I couldn't see it in myself. Those are God moments for me. All right, Chelsea, let's catch up on these real quick. I always go over lately I've been going over on my time. I'm sorry, guys. Bubbles, love that. I like to visualize sitting on a riverbank, watching what is right in front of me. A river keeps flowing. So I'm watching the tree in front of me drop leaves onto the river. The leaves are the thoughts. We watch them fall in the river, notice them, and gently watch them go down the river until they are out of sight. Then I bring my focus back to the river and tree right in front of me. I like that. And I know you've shared that with me before, Chelsea. You know, bubbles work for me as well. I think it just depends on what you see. You know, when you picture your happy place, what do you see? You know, and utilize that for your thoughts to come and go. Vicky, yes, that's so true for my life too. I never would have thought of where I'd be now when I got sober. Amen to that. You know, I spent a long time in prison, and my one goal was to come out different than I went in. You know, and it took me 6 months prior to leaving, so 2.5 years in, to actually start to get sober and actually change something about myself. Because my biggest fear was coming out the same person or worse than I was when I went in. And I definitely, at 2.5 years into prison, I was worse than I was. But even when I came home, you know, I was scared of everything. I hid in the corner. I didn't talk to anybody. You know, Yana pushed me. And this is one of the things that Yana does to me all the time, is, you know, pushes me through things or introduces me to people or sends me into situations, you know, and it's what I was talking about. She sees something in me that I don't see in myself, you know, and it's just as simple as saying, is like, I wouldn't be here today without other people in my life. I've definitely taken those steps, and I've definitely put in work, absolutely, and I can acknowledge that. So I have taken control of my own sobriety, but at the same time, if I didn't have people behind me pushing me every step of the way, telling me I could go further, telling me I'm stronger than I am, you know, telling me that I am capable of this, I would have never tried, you know. my support network is very, very important to me. I hold it very dear to my heart. And, you know, I think about it all the time, like where I am now and the ideas that I had in my head when I came home, and they're completely different. You know, the idea I had when I came home was like building a life for this girl I was with, and, you know, this job, this money coming in, blah, 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 all the things, the material things, you know, and where I'm at today is completely, completely different than that. I just said it yesterday. Like, if you had told me I was going to work for this nonprofit in the recovery community, I would have thought you were freaking insane, because I had these grandiose ideas of what my life was going to look like. But today I do work for that organization, and I do have a sense of purpose, and I love myself, and I love the people that I work with. You know, it's completely different than what I had in mind for myself. Kara, you have to believe in yourself. You are worthy. I'm working on it. You know, every day is a little bit better. This time that I'm by myself is helping a lot to just disconnect from not people, but intimate relationships, you know, and kind of just focus on me and what's going on with me. And Kara, are you the security guard? I remember that. Kara, just backstory real quick. Kara thought I was a security guard for ROCovery Fitness. I don't know if it was my demeanor, my sense of protectiveness. It's one of my, can be flaws, but also one of my attributes is that I protect people around me. So I think it's just my demeanor, but that was an amazing conversation. The first time we ever met, she thought I was the security guard at ROCovery Fitness that had stopped working there or something. So, all right, last reading real quick. I'm way over on my time. And this one is Demi Lovato, my favorite book. If you haven't watched any of my videos before, this is my favorite one. March 23rd, never judge a book by its cover. It's so easy to walk by people and make judgments about who they are based on some small passing detail or flaw that you've observed. Maybe their attitude appears to be rude. Maybe they aren't as outgoing as you are. Either way, without taking the time to actually get to know someone and hear what they've been through, you really have no right to judge anyone. The things we observe superficially are just that. They are false impressions and don't tell you anything about what others have actually experienced. Goal: take the time to really get to know people. Ask them what their story is and be a good listener. First of all, the first thing that comes to mind is Yana. She always says, like, you know, it's not about who you are or what you've done. It's about what you've been through. We don't know what people have been through, you know. And yesterday, meeting with my sponsor, Kiara, I love Demi too. Anyways, meeting with my sponsee yesterday, you know, one of the biggest topics that we talked about was, you know, in feeling inadequate and like we're never going to be successful or we're never going to all these things. You know, I can't do X, Y, and Z because I'm not smart enough, not personable enough, not charismatic enough, you know, stuff like that. And the only advice I had in that situation was that, like, we don't know what people have been through, you know. So I might look up to, one of my biggest things is Chelsea, and I love you to death, but like one of my biggest people that I compare myself to is my best friend. We're exactly the same human, you know, so I get caught in this wormhole of I wish I was X, Y, and Z that Chelsea has, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, I don't know her daily struggles. Like, I do, but to an extent. I don't know what she feels every day. I don't know how she feels about life or what she feels inadequate at, you know, stuff like that. Like, I don't know those things, you know. So for me to assume that she has X, Y, and Z better than I do, or, you know, anybody has something better than I do, I don't know that. You know, I don't know the trials that they've been through, the trauma that they've been through, you know, how happy or unhappy they are, stuff like that. You know, it was one of the very big topics of conversation yesterday, was just recognizing that we don't know all those things. You know, and I'm guilty of it too. I will judge people by the cover, you know, and it's one of my least favorite things. I try to ask questions and know what's behind this that I see. And get to learn the person behind me or behind all of that. And, it's hard to do. We're human. I see someone in my life who is making way more money than I am, and they seem like they have all their shit together. It's very easy for me to compare to that and just get stuck in it and like, I'm not good enough, I'll never add up, I can't do that, I'll never make that much money, stuff like that. But if I just take a step back and understand that I don't know them, and it's hard to do, but I've tried to get better about it, especially like I just shared with you guys, with my best friend. It has at times has come between her and I, and she's my human, you know what I mean? Like she's my person no matter what. Like I know I can go to her. I know that she's going to be there for me. And for that, my own shit, my own addiction to come between that relationship, like that's not okay. So it's taken something like that to really open my eyes and show me that I'm judging her and other humans on that surface level, when even Chelsea's a perfect example, because like I know her life, for the most part. I know everything. We're the same person. First of all, we think exactly the same, but also she shares that with me, so I don't know, whatever. But so what's the last comments here? Vicky, just like I was speaking about last night, I truly believe that you can't judge someone, especially without knowing their story. Getting to know someone is important, and you will never know the true feelings of people without listening. Absolutely. I ask a lot of questions. Serenity. I ask a lot of questions, and that's one of the things that is new for me. I used to be very quiet and isolated, and I would just go with the flow, but now in my life, like even talking to Vicky last night, she knows, like I ask a ton of questions, I will keep asking, and, I want to learn what you've been through, why you're where you're at, stuff like that. And that goes for everybody in my life, whether it's intimate, volunteers, outreach, stuff like that. Like I want to know, and it's not, today it looks different. It's not a selfish thing. Like I want to know your weaknesses and I want to know this and that. I was a hustler and a drug dealer growing up. Like I know how to do that. Today it's genuine love and care and concern to understand where you've come from and why you've been through what you've been through. Because my story is fucking crazy, absolutely crazy, and if anybody judged me by my cover, like I have no shot, so I think it's come from that, is like understanding that if people just look past my prison record and my drug use and all the things that I've done, and they get to know me, I'm not what that piece of paper says. I'm not that. That doesn't define me. It doesn't make me who I am. Even my setbacks over the past 6 years, every time that I've went back out or chose to do something that wasn't ideal, that doesn't make me who I am. I've still been in recovery since 2015. I've still learned a bunch of things, I've still, grown in all these different ways. But, if somebody judges me by all of that, I don't have a shot. I don't stand a shot, So I think like my personal experience has helped me understand other people's. That is the hardest part, Kiera, sorry. That is the hardest part for me, sharing what I've been through. I've realized for me, working at ROCovery, sharing what I've been through, it has become a lot easier. I'm very transparent and open about what I've been through. I have to talk about it all the time. A lot of times people hear that I work at ROCovery and they automatically think they know my life, So I'm very transparent about it. But at the same time, it isn't easy. The whole time I'm telling somebody about it, especially in the dating world, like I'm thinking you're going to run away. When I'm thinking about it in a job aspect, they're going to think that I'm untrustworthy and unreliable, excuse me, sir. It is really hard to share that stuff. But at the same time, I have found in the past, I wouldn't even say in the past 8 months, 9 months, I have found that me being bluntly honest about everything from start to finish, I've had the best results that I've ever had in my entire life. I tell people when I'm struggling, I get on here and I cry and I tell you guys, I'm not having a good day. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. That's one of the things for me is I will not sugarcoat it for you. I will tell you exactly what I'm going through, where I've been, where I'm going. I will tell you all of that. And the only reason that I do that is because I tested the theory a couple times where I was just, you know what, I'm just going to go in here and be honest and see how it pans out. And out of all the times that I've walked into a room and been completely honest, whether it was courts, judges, lawyers, employers, girlfriends, any of that stuff, out of all the times that I've been completely honest, there's been 2 that I can think of that did not go well at all. They went very bad and they went sideways and I paid a lot of money and whatever. But out of all of that, I mean, we're talking about 9 months here, more often than not, it goes in a lot better direction than I could have ever imagined. So I go into things today as honest as I possibly can be and hoping for the best, and worst case scenario, it doesn't go well. You wash your hands of it, you did your best, and you can take solace in the fact that you know that you were you, authentically you, no matter what. Kira, being in an abusive relationship, I have conditioned to believe it'll get used against me. I can relate to that. My marriage was 10 years long and it was absolutely terrible. She was everything against me, but Yana said something to me yesterday, like when you're in a healthier place, you attract healthier people, so those people that I'm sharing those things with aren't going to be the same style of human that I was sharing my life with before, so that's not about you sharing your truth, in my opinion. It's not about me sharing my truth. It's about who I'm sharing it with and what are their motives and what are their intentions. Do they have my best interests at heart? I can't go wrong if I share my truth. Worst case scenario is that you walk away or you use it against me. But at the end of the day, I can sleep peacefully at night knowing that I did my best and I gave you every single freaking piece of me. For me in my recovery, I have found that if I'm not honest and I'm not telling you the truth, I can't sleep with myself. I'd rather be mad at you all day long. If I can't sleep with myself, I'm not okay with that. So that's what I have on that as far as experience goes. But that's everything. And I'm 12 minutes, 13 minutes over at this point. I love all of you. And I really appreciate the engaging comments and stuff like that. Again, I say it every time, please get involved and, let us know what you need from us. Reach out to me personally. I'm on Facebook Messenger. I will give you my phone number. Reach out to us personally. We need these things. We do this because we need it. We do it because we hope that you guys need it and learn something from it. Watch the other videos that we have up on here. There's 4 or 5 staff members getting involved in this. So please watch them. Watch our page. We have stuff all day long. Get involved, and reach out. This time is really hard. It's really hard for all of us. But as Yana always says, we will get it through it together. We can't get through it without each other. So thank you all for listening to me today. Have a good day.